Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. This week we're going to get into secure attachment styles. So this is really important because what we're trying to do is learn what we didn't get or what we did get, which then alters our ability to have healthy relationships or what causes us to have unhealthy relationships. So in this video, we're going to go over the secure attachment style and hopefully give you some information so you can start to kind of decipher whether you are this attachment style or not. Now, before we do get into this week's video, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, don't forget to click subscribe down below and click on post notifications. I will also link my Instagram here if you're looking to follow me on social media. And I also link all of my courses, private coaching, things like that down below. So don't forget to check that out. With secure attachment style, what you're seeing is a child that actually grew up in a fairly healthy household. So this means that the child received a lot of love and attention. What this did is it allowed them to develop really healthy cognitive and emotional responses to things. It also meant that because they had the parents that they had or the adults around them that mirrored healthy dynamics, or that the adults themselves were healthy, and so the child learned how to handle themselves in certain situations, the child grew up to have a really healthy inner self. Because what happened was, throughout the course of their childhood and into adulthood, they learned in different phases how to really love themselves, how to take care of themselves, how to have boundaries, how to have standards, how to have a lot of self-worth. They also learned how to validate their feelings, and they learned how to self-soothe. So in this channel, what we're always talking about is mental health and basically making it very easy to understand what does it mean to actually be emotionally and mentally healthy. When you look at the people that raised you, now as an adult looking back, you can see where maybe mom was dysfunctional or dad had a lot of issues. You can see where they maybe fell off the mark in terms of parenting, and we're not trying to hold people to this really high standard of not being human, because we all are and we all have some stuff. But what we're trying to do is understand what didn't we get that we should have received. And of course, we'll mourn that and deal with all the healing and grieving in terms of maybe what we didn't get that we wish we would have. But also at a certain point in life, you kind of have to be an adult and say, okay, I'm here and I'm not 8 years old anymore and I'm not 15 years old anymore. And I can mourn those things. And that's a part of the healing process, is to grieve something that you unfortunately didn't get. But then there comes the other part where we start taking more responsibility and accountability for our lives and saying, yes, I didn't get this. That is a poor me. But now what do I do about it? And really, that's the point of this channel and my coaching, is to really empower you to understand that while you may have not have gotten all of the things that you actually needed or deserved, now you're at a point in your life, being an adult or a young adult, where you can actually start to give those things to yourself and learn how to do them for yourself. Since you didn't have that mirror, you didn't have that person in front of you, possibly like someone that has secure attachment, that had that healthy relationship. So the bond between child and parent, whether it's child and mother or child and father, in order to have a really strong bond between you and anyone, there has to be a real powerful or significant level of trust in that relationship, which means when I come to you, when I share myself with you, meaning when I share my thoughts, when I share my opinions, when I share my feelings, when I share who I just am at my core, at my soul level, when I share that with you and I expose that, you have to be able to love and nurture that and not judge me or shame me or make me feel guilty or completely abandon me or completely ignore me. So if a child had a really strong bond with one of their parents, chances are what happened was the parent was able to give them a multitude of things that satisfied the child, that nurtured the child on emotional levels and mental levels. So an emotional level would mean that when I came to you, you validated and you soothed me. You gave me physical touch. You gave me words of affirmation. On a mental level, you listened to me and then you helped me with my problems. You didn't try to solve my problems, but you were patient and you talked me through the process of feeling good about myself. You mirrored a really healthy sense of self where you gave me a multitude of these things. You told me you loved me. You gave me kisses. You took the time to sit there and listen to me, even when I was erratic. You had patience with me. And now, again, just to reiterate, no parent is perfect, but if you got those things majority of the times where you didn't get them, where maybe mom was losing her patience or dad was really exhausted and frustrated, or mom and dad were both maybe going through something in their own personal lives, they were able to separate those two things. Or as you got older, they were able to come to you and verbally explain that mom's going through something or dad's having a tough day right now. And you saw that they were vulnerable as well. And you saw how they actually then handled that day or that frustration. So I think it's important to recognize that we're not looking for perfect parents, because no one's ever going to get that. But what you did get is you got a really healthy, strong bond with your parents that was a mutual relationship. It was back and forth. It wasn't you had to apologize when you did something wrong, but your parents never apologized when they did something wrong. So I think in today's day and age, we're finding conscious parenting being a really important thing, and definitely out there in the media, and people are really learning about it because they're understanding, okay, what I got years ago wasn't healthy and it didn't help me. So how can I become a parent now that is more mindful of the fact that this is another human being? It doesn't mean that they're the child and I'm the parent 24 hours a day, and that I can't acknowledge when I do something wrong. Being able to have that really close relationship with your child and validating their feelings, even when you don't agree with them, and having that level of patience. I mean, it requires a lot of inner work in terms of the parent. So if your parent wasn't able to do any of those things, or they just didn't even know how to, they weren't going to be able to give you this stuff majority of the time. The real importance of understanding how significant it was that when you spoke about your thoughts, your opinions, how you were feeling, the fact that you were validated 9 times out of 10 meant that your connection with yourself stayed intact. When you came to someone and every time you came to them, you were made to feel bad about the way you thought or felt. If someone never agreed with you, they weren't able to have empathy with you, they never allowed you to actually voice your own thoughts and opinions, no one really asked you questions aside from just how was your day. And chances are, even when they asked those questions, you kind of felt like they didn't really want to know because they had so much stuff going on and the focus was never really on you. So if you felt that, then that relationship with yourself starts to kind of come apart, because parenting is about me helping you to stay connected to you. And I have to do that by mirroring that side of yourself so you can continuously have that bond with yourself, which means that when you think something, you honor it. When you feel a certain way, you see it. You don't just suppress it. You don't overlook it. You're not hyper-focused on other people, or you're not hyper-focused on myself as the parent. You're focused on you. And that's done in a healthy way. We don't want to go to the extreme where we become narcissistic. And the only way that someone cannot go that route is if they learn boundaries. So as a parent, my job is to teach you how to stay connected to yourself, and for me to focus on you and see you and hear you and validate you and soothe you and love you and give you physical touch, etc., etc. But there are also boundaries with that, which means every single time you feel something, we're not going to be able to sit down and talk it through, or we're not going to be able to just give you everything you want because you want it right now. Life doesn't really work that way. So finding that balance, that healthy balance between praising, attention, giving and all of those things versus you're not the only person in this household that has thoughts and feelings. So balancing those two things is tricky, and it gets even harder when you have a lot of children in the household. So now you can see that if you got all of those things, that validation, that ability to be seen, etc., when you go into relationships, you are very secure. You are very secure in yourself. And when you received those things from your parents, that means that you don't crave love. You don't need validation. You don't need to be in a relationship. And because that strong need and that lack inside of you then causes you to make bad decisions. So you don't have that void inside of you because you grew up feeling healthy and getting that secure relationship and forming that really strong bond with your parents, which then would allow you to form strong bonds with other people. So someone with secure attachment, they're able to have relationships, they're able to communicate, they're able to have difficult conversations because there's no fear. They know how to stay intact. They know how to handle themselves. And again, this isn't perfection. You know, no one's perfect. So even someone with a secure attachment style, do they have an ego? Yes. Do they get triggered sometimes by things? Absolutely. But the point of it is that for the most part, they know how to handle themselves in day-to-day life. They know how to kind of own what's going on in here and be able to form really great relationships with other people. So if I have a secure attachment style, like I said, I'm going to be able to communicate with you. I'm going to be able to tell you what my standards are. I'm going to understand the concept of boundaries, and I'm going to understand or feel perfectly fine with enforcing them. It doesn't mean that I want to enforce them. It stinks that I have to do this, but I understand my self-worth. And the self-worth really comes at the forefront. When you grow up in those kind of family or dynamics and households, then you feel really good about yourself. When you don't get a lot of the things that you probably should have received, you're going to have a lot of anxiety around relationships. You're going to have a lot of fear. You're going to have a lot of abandonment. And those are the things that are going to allow you to or cause you to basically avoid relationships, vulnerability, and intimacy, or maybe you don't avoid them entirely. You get into relationships, but because of that kind of anxious abandonment stuff that's going on inside of you, because you didn't get what you needed, because there was a lot of neglect and abandonment in your life, then you're going to cling so tightly to relationships that you actually start to sabotage them. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you feel like you yourself are a secure attachment style person. And I will see you next week.